Good morning. I welcome everybody who joins us. Ukraine Media Center continues its operation. My name is Olga Atamanova, and now we'll be talking about the summary of the NATO Summit and its results for Ukraine. Joining us online is Maria Mezentseva, the People's Deputy of Ukraine, Deputy Head of the Committee on Ukraine's Integration into the European Union. Good morning, Miss Maria. Good morning. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. So, Miss Maria, let's talk about the results of this summit. How did it end for us, for Ukraine? What can we already mention? Well, it was a historic summit, really, and this historic nature is not only in its fact that it's a 75th meeting, but the celebration of the anniversary of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that military political union that is aiming at ensuring the peace in transatlantic space and subcontinent of Europe. Well, the summary of what we get was contrary to what Putin was expecting as a result of his extensive aggression against Ukraine. Basically, the summit now included 2 more countries who joined the alliance recently. It's important for us. The synchronization with them is ongoing, and I want to remind the spectators to look in retrospective from the founding countries all the way to the alliance consisting of 32 countries, and some of them were fulfilling other conditions and requirements. Back in the 50s of the last century, the challenges were different, the tasks were different, and Ukraine, in the opinion of many military and political experts, in the way of its synchronization with partner countries and according to different systems of assessment. For example, recently there was the system of assessment of our UAV systems by 8 NATO parameters. Obviously, there's the new type of forces among the security and defense forces where actually we train our partners rather than them training us, and they can confirm it. So that's the assessment of highest standard, highest level of synchronization. Well, of course, our expectations about the provision of weapons and equipment were satisfied, and for the time being we could have been invited to the alliance, but that's the political resolution that requires the consent of all of the 32 parties. And we have a number of announced aid package, the American aid package in amount of $40 billion, and the partners are saying that it will be complemented, updated. And to do this, we have to continue working. Our diplomats, not only when our colleagues go for summer recess, but it's a daily work, it's an ongoing work. We continue explaining to our colleagues who come from the NATO fields to different regions of Donetsk, Kherson, Kharkiv, and Mykolaiv regions, why do we need the air defense systems? How could, for example, the enemy position their artillery systems in a way that they impede the operations of HIMARS system, for example? Another article is the long range, talking about defense of our skies. None of them in total that will be provided by Romania, Netherlands, Germany, of course, and other partner countries. Germany additionally provided us with a support package that was extended during the meeting of the NATO. It was not announced, but it's very good when it's being provided without any promises. It's real good to have surprises like this. So the mass war crime committed by Russia, a crime of genocidal nature that was made by Russia one day before the summit, somehow the United Nations Security Council was headed by the aggressor country, but for international partners that was a great opportunity to unite all those official speeches for documentation within the framework of arrest warrants for the so-called ambassador at the United Nations and other government officials. So let me remind all of the spectators that all of the generals, pilots, all of the military 20-plus persons, including Putin, obviously, in whose name the arrest warrant was already issued, just like in the name of the Minister of Defense or former Minister of Defense. All of them are identified, and our goal is to condemn them even in absentia, convict them in absentia, but the free movement in at least 153 countries of the world will be prohibited for them. Recently, there was initiative supported by the Office of the President, the Office of Prosecutors General, and People's Deputies, is ratification of the Rome Statute, this important international document that stipulates issue of the arrest warrants that I've just mentioned. So again, long range of weapons, an element we cannot make way around. We have this security agreement with the government of Poland. We were able to see it in the text that upon the consent of the partner countries, the air defense of Poland, we know that their planes take off in the regions close to the borders with Ukraine. We can see their air defense systems operating, entering the territory of Ukraine at the consent of our partner, upon the consent of our partner countries. It's important also to mention the resolution of PACI that was adopted 9 months ago about the legitimacy of targets in Russian Federation. Not only oil refineries successfully targeted by Ukrainian long-range drones, but also the use of weapons provided by our partners, not only Americans, but all of other partner countries, to target those spots where, for example, guided aviation bombs are being launched from. Air defense cannot cope with them, but the aviation can cope with them. Our pilots are already certified. The planes are on the way. It's a matter of logistic and F-16 security, along with the security of our partners, because it comes to our knowledge that, unfortunately, their families may be under threat of attacks by Russian Federation, hybrid attacks by Russian Federation. It means that Russia is afraid. They understand the strength and intentions of our partners, and we remember how it was announced in the fields of the summit that this year, this summer, today is 15th of July, we are through the equator of summer. Obviously, we all hope that the birds arrive earlier than the end of the summer, and they start the missions even earlier. And well, thanks to our partners, thanks to the funding of the training of our pilots who underwent the training successfully, we want to appreciate their input here. And it's important to make sure that such security agreements as the one we've signed with such country as Luxembourg, whose GDP per capita is the biggest in the world, it's important to mention why the security and defense forces of Ukraine is fighting. And in the defense agreement, these cultural heritage, cultural values are put as a priority, but we keep explaining to our partners without the permit for long-range attacks, without additional air defense, it's impossible to defend the cultural heritage, and they become such a delicious target for the aggressor because that's the way they continue perpetrating their genocidal crimes. And we were mentioning in the PSC resolution. Ms. Maria, talking about the final declaration of the summit, let's try to summarize it specifically in that part and in those wordings talking about our potential accession to NATO. So what do we see for ourselves in future? And also, I suggest we touch upon the agreement signed in the fields of this summit. I think that was an important event too. Yes, absolutely synchronized joint security documents signed by 21 countries plus official representative Japan and European Union as institution. Well, some may have criticized that if we've signed separate bilateral agreements, why do we need a joint one? It's important because it's about the ongoing synchronization of joint efforts. It doesn't cancel the Rammstein meetings. It doesn't cancel bilateral security agreements. It only expands our potential with 21 partners plus Japan plus EU. So talking about additional, well, you've asked about the text of the joint declaration, the first one. During the history of our way to NATO, it was clearly stipulated not potential membership, not future membership, but irreversible, unconditional membership of Ukraine in NATO. Some may treat it as diplomatic statement, but please believe me, to make sure that this sentence appears in this text, the President, Parliament, our diplomatic corps, all were working along with the civil organizations who work in the defense sector of Ukraine. Obviously, our mission within the framework of NATO, it was important. It was important to get this announcement of this bridge, because bridge is the connection, is the further synchronization. It's important, something that was not very public, but we know that the partners are preparing about 150,000 new military, and at the same time, there are new interesting initiatives in recruiting based upon our joint initiative in the best interest of the defense forces. So it's the improvement of skills of those who serve in the international region. It's training of our troops in the Republic of Poland, TechMed, arms, all the joint operations that support Ukraine in getting prepared and training people. For us as a country who always complies with international law, even during activities related to prisoners of war, it's already proved Russia doesn't do it, and we continue working to bring all of our prisoners back, both military and civilian. It was also covered in the fields on the summit. And the value of human life is not only in our constitution. We don't have to forget about it, not in our country, neither outside of it. So we continue taking all of the efforts, and today we plan more resolutions for the PSC session. For the time being, talking about the important statements, well, we can continue analyzing the document. It's more than 50 pages. But for us, it's important to have that package voted by the U.S. Congress to arrive in full. It's not still in the battlefield. in full. So those announced aid packages from Spain, New Zealand, and even Iceland, who doesn't have armed forces but still is a part of the alliance, it's important to make sure all of them work. Well, we don't want that to be supported by the, or to be pushed by the war crimes against the children sick with cancer. A lot of international partners have already responded to this emergency. For example, our communication with the American Charity Foundation resulted in promise to provide more than $2 million to support reconstruction of Ahmadit. I'm sorry, it has frozen a bit, so we keep striding ahead. Everybody knows that the security and defense forces ensure the high evaluation, high assessment on part of our partners. They are the ones who provide their, who prove their efficiency in the battlefield, and they are exactly those whom we should thank for our accession or potential accession to NATO. Well, Ms. Maria, those statements, those wordings about our potential accession to NATO, they resulted in some outrage on part of Russia. And during this summit, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Hungary stated that having Ukraine joined would weaken the alliance. We've studied some international media, and some of them say that such sentiment is intensifying in the international community. Are you observing the same, or in your opinion, our support is multilateral and systemic? Well, in short, those are the statements of specific political leaders. We've just mentioned Mr. Szijjártó, the head of MFA of Hungary, but let's remember that the chairmanship of Hungary expires in November. I mean, the chairmanship of Hungary, and Mr. Orban will stop addressing everybody on behalf of EU, and this is exactly what puts the chairmanship of Hungary in European Council under question. Everybody makes their conclusions, and the partners understand that without strong Ukraine, without strong army of Ukraine, there was a statement by the generals of Germany who stated that in year 2031, Russia may start the full-scale invasion against the alliance countries. So our partners understand the threat, so it's in our best interest, talking in the language of political interests. Ms. Maria, we have questions on the floor, please. I apologize, I'm not hearing the question.
Corriere della Sera. Ms. Maria, just a simple question. Of course, the NATO summit was, how can I say, dominated in the last at its end by the event in America, the attempt to kill Mr. Trump. And this is a big question. It looks like today the victory by Mr. Trump at the American election looks given for granted. Trump is now getting so much attention. Of course, the big question is what will happen with Trump? Trump is a friend of Orban. Trump promised to the world that he will be elected and then he will solve the...
Personally to you, thank you very much for joining our broadcast, dear friends. Let's continue working together for our victory, and glory to Ukraine.